Hey everyone, welcome to today's podcast, Powered by Iron Health Podcast. Today we are at Team Moljo in Shrub Oak, New York. This is a really cool gym. I'm excited for us to take a tour, check it out. John, the owner, is an awesome guy. We're going to have an awesome podcast, talk about business and how he built this gym. So let's head on in. Let's go check it out. What's up, man?
Yo, what's up?
How you doing?
Welcome.
This is John Moljo. He's the owner here at Moljo Strength.
How's it going? Welcome to Team Moljo.
Jess?
This is Jess. She's one of our coaches.
Hello, welcome.
We were just talking about how excited I am to do this tour. So
Grand tour of our
this gym is cool, man.
unique facility. So welcome to Team Moljo. We're an appointment-based training facility. If you include our basement, which I'll show you guys, we're just about 8,500 square feet. So we actually have 4 separate training spaces in our gym. This is general fitness. So obviously you'll see some more common equipment up here, some treadmills, 5 stations, Smith machine. You'll notice that we have air bikes in just about every gym. Big air bike lover. And most of our members are also air bike lovers, but that's because we kind of like force them to be.
I see you always do something there. Like,
I am like an avid air bike guy. Yes.
You like torture.
Yes, love torture. So yeah, like I said, we're an appointment-based facility, so we do personal training, group training, and we do offer 5 group classes that are included in the membership, any training membership that our members have. So general fitness, basic fitness needs, and this is open to some of our members during business hours if they want to come in and warm up prior to their training session. This is the backbone of Team Moljo. This is Nicole. She's the manager.
Hello.
If you ask any one of our members, she does everything, and I do nothing.
Not true.
That's great. I believe it.
Not true.
This is our main hallway, so this is where you find our lockers, cubbies, bathrooms in here. And then as we head into the back, we actually split into 2 separate training spaces. So to the right, here we have Luke. He is one of our strength and conditioning coaches. So this is what we call Gym 1. This gym is about 1,400 square feet. We've got 3 squat stations, pull-ups, competition kettlebells, dumbbells up to 100 pounds, obviously more air bikes like I said before. We've got some rowers, some general fitness bells. Most of our strength training programming will go on in this gym, but this gym was uniquely designed to connect to Gym 2, which we'll go to next, so we could easily make equipment transferable from one gym to the other in case we needed equipment in this gym.
I like the competition kettlebells.
Yeah, those are much better than the bells. So we got some TRX, some battle ropes. This is Melissa, longtime student athlete member, stud, now intern here. So this is Gym 2. So a little bit more open space, a little bit less equipment in here, but we like to utilize the gym for more dynamic-based training, some agility work, and when we have larger groups, it gives us kind of some more space to get bigger groups in here as well. But again, like you said, these gyms, like I said, these gyms are easily connected. So we've ran classes programs where we're utilizing both gyms for training as well. And last but not least, my favorite part of the gym, we call it the basement, BASSSSSS, because the sound system down here is legit. So we actually built this out in 2019. So this was an unfinished basement, unoccupied. Got it CO'd. Put 6 plate-loaded machines down here, 3 additional squat racks, benches, some ski ergs, which we don't have upstairs. Again, more air bikes, and a full-blown DJ booth setup. So we could rock the 1s and 2s in here.
Well, that is like your passion, right?
That is my side hobby / love, passion, if you want to call it, but DJing. New skill I'm teaching myself.
Nice.
And this is basement continued. So this is where we used to stream our virtual programming, and it's now utilized for storage and can be transitioned to training space at any point in time when the upstairs gym in the basement is pretty occupied. So
awesome. Yeah, this is a great tour. It's like a maze. So
Yeah.
hope you guys enjoy that, and we're gonna sit down and get to some meat of it. Hey everyone, welcome to the Powered by Iron Health Podcast. Today I got a special guest, John Moljo. Thanks for coming.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm excited about this. We are here to create a community that raises the standard of health and wellness, and this guy's gym is top notch. So I'm excited to get into this. So thanks for being on, man.
Yeah.
Let's start with the strong analogy, because this is something that
Gotcha.
you do that is dope.
So our core values,
Yes.
right? So perfect. Yeah, so strong S.T.R.O.N.G. That is the acronym for our core values, which are conveniently displayed right behind us and just about in every other gym we have upstairs. So, when first starting the business, I knew that I had to create something that was bigger than myself, and I needed to give, the vision some guidelines and something that was going to create a community that was bigger than me, but a community that had something to look up to and a community that had some qualities that would be desired and adopted by more people. And prior to owning my own facility, I knew that I had to, give the business something that others were going to look forward to. So this is where I came up with these core values. It took a lot of time to really focus on what are qualities I think that a business needs to be successful, but what are qualities I think a person needs to be successful as well. And I think that these 5 core values do a pretty good job with that. So self-discipline, in fitness especially, right? Like what's the number one thing people need to continue to work out, to stick to their meal plan, to do the things that they need to do to achieve their goals, right? You have to have the discipline to do that. Teachable. As a coach, that's what I do for a living, and I think I have to embody that characteristic if I'm going to try and get other people to want to learn from me, right? Mm-hmm. I have to be someone who can learn, so I can teach people how to learn. And relentless. You're an entrepreneur, you get it, right? Like you got to fight, claw, and really, really sacrifice for the things that you want. Where we at R. We went through that. So optimistic, having a positive mindset, like. Shit's going to happen. Can we curse on this podcast? Yeah. All right. Like shit's going to happen. Things aren't going to always be great. So how do you find the silver lining in every situation? Noble. This is probably the most difficult one to figure out, but essentially like doing something big that's for a bigger purpose than yourself. And lastly, grateful. I don't take for granted what this place is and the people I get to spend time with. And I know that it's important daily to sit back and have an attitude of gratefulness for that. So
very, very cool. Yeah. Where did you come up with the concept of the core values? Like, how did you learn that?
I've always been like a big acronym guy. I always try and simplify things. So it was honestly just like one of the first things I thought when I knew I wanted to open my own facility. I wanted a strong brand, right? Which is why you'll also see like the color purple because it's unique. It's my mom's favorite color. But I wanted a brand that was going to be recognizable, distinguishable, that was different from what other gyms were doing. And you see the word strong in almost every gym, but that's just what it means. It's just strong. And, I wanted people to know that like here being strong is a lot more than just being able to lift weights. It's all of these things and more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think core values is super important.
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Did you always have core values in your life, or did you learn that going through business and?
Yeah, so I mean, I have my undergrad degree in business management, so they teach you that every company needs core values and you need to kind of follow through with it. But as a college student, you don't really. You don't take that stuff seriously. Yeah. You're like, this core values, blah, whatever, who cares? But as I entered my professional working career and decided that I wanted to operate a business, I had some good mentors and I had conversations with people and they were like, look, you need to give yourself like guidelines. You need to give yourself kind of like some parameters that like, what's the purpose? What's the reason behind your business? What's the bigger picture? And if you have that, it makes decision making a lot easier. It makes hiring people a lot easier. It makes having the real identity in your community come together a little bit better. So I wouldn't say I've always had core values, and core values weren't always important to me. I mean, I started my business when I was 24 years old, so I don't know what 24-year-old is walking around like, these are my core values, and I'm sticking to them. And like, lastly, like shit changes. Like what's important to you, what was important to me at 24, like now at 34 isn't as important. But these things I knew would be timeless and they would last, whether I was 24, 34, 104. They were always going to be important.
Yeah, and I like what you said, and I know we're harping on the core values, but I think it's cool for us to talk about this before we dive into anything else. Is when you make decisions based on this, like, do you have specific examples without naming names of like how you made a decision based on your core value?
Yeah, I definitely, earlier in, we are in I'm in my 9th year of a brick and mortar facility. So in my first facility, I wouldn't say that I knew what I was doing, but I was a first year business owner and making hires. And over time, you start to see that not everyone embodies these core values. So yeah, I would definitely say in the area of staffing, you can't let people who don't embody these core values continue to try and preach about these core values. Like they have to be ingrained in you. You have to respect them. You have to understand them. And not everyone did. So definitely in terms of staffing, 6-7 years ago for sure.
Yeah. So you had to let people go.
Yeah. Yep.
It's always the toughest part, man.
Yeah.
If it's not performance and it's something.
Yeah.
About the values,
it's culture.
Yeah.
People have to fit in with the culture.
So true.
Yeah.
So let's go back to your origin story. Like, how did you know you wanted to open a gym? And then how did this whole thing come about?
Yeah, it's unique and it's interesting because I knew I wanted to open a gym in college. But also while in college, I was taking a lot of civil service tests. So not a lot of people know this, but I was like, I denied going to the NYPD because I wanted to finish my senior year of college. I interviewed for like the Larchmont Police Department, for the Scarsdale Police Department. So I was actually pursuing like law enforcement back in 2008 and 2009. And fitness had become a big part of my life because in high school I had an ACL injury. I started to lose weight. I'm like, I'm my own weight loss success story. At my heaviest, I was almost 300 pounds. So fitness was always a big part of my life. And then being a business major in school, I realized like, wow, I want to own a business. I want to own and operate something that's unique. And for me, like fitness, it just made sense because I was always entrepreneurial my whole life. And being so passionate about fitness for a few years, I was just kind of excited at the opportunity to like, well, why don't you try and do this for yourself? And then when I entered my professional working career, I worked for a great franchise that I really looked up to. And I was like, I can do this. So seeing it out there in a franchise, having an entrepreneurial business background and being passionate about fitness, for me, it just made sense.
Mm-hmm. When did you decide like, hey, I'm going to take the leap? What was your first, because I know this is not your original facility, right? This
is not my original facility, nor it's my original company. So
really?
My first ever company, I started in 2011 with a partner. It was called Kettlebell Inferno. And at that time, you saw all of these like Group X models kind of like blowing up into the large commercial gyms. Like Les Mills had like Body Pump, and you essentially would license out your programming to these big commercial gyms. I'm like, oh, that's great. I think I'm pretty good at programming. I could come up with something unique. And none of these bigger programs or bigger brands really focused on kettlebells. Like kettlebells are like some of the most original pieces of strength training equipment. Yet in like 2008 to like 2014, you couldn't really find them in a gym. And then probably like 2014, 2015, they kind of like made their way back into mainstream fitness, we'll call it. So I started a company called Kettlebell Inferno, branded it, demoed it for the large corporate gym I was working at with the hopes that they would kind of like buy in and kind of like roll it into their group exercise schedule. They had another location that I hope it would ended up kind of rolling into, and it didn't really pan out that way. So I actually no longer worked for that large corporate gym, and what I started to do was rent space in the area running that program. And while I was running that program, I was building, my own personal training business. I started coaching football. So I was essentially doing a lot of different things. I was trying to grow a Group X model. I was building a personal training business. I started running a strength and conditioning camp at a high school. I was coaching football for the high school. So I was trying to get my roots into as many different areas as possible. And eventually I realized that I had to kind of like simplify and get everything under one roof. So that's when in 2014 I realized, like, you know what, like I have a good following. I think I'm in a good position financially where I could afford to open a facility and pay the bills, and I was able to save enough money to help with the startup costs. So in the end of 2014, that's when I signed the first lease for my first location in Putnam Valley, which is a few miles away from here. So that's when I knew I was ready. I had a big enough business, I had a big enough following, and I was going to be able to start the gym and go into month one debt-free.
Yeah.
So
that's clutch.
Yeah.
What happened to Kettlebell Inferno at that point?
Kettlebell Inferno went up in flames. It's not that it went up in flames. I actually, I still have the program, but we dissolved the LLC. And then my partner and I, who were still very good friends, we just, we were at different points in life. He was retired, and this was kind of like, I don't want to say a hobby for him, but it wasn't like he didn't need it. He was retired. He had done well for himself, and I was trying to build my career and build my life. So it's hard to take someone who's retired and kind of like, and someone who's like really trying to build and get those to kind of collaborate. So that's when I started my own company, Team Moljo Strength and Conditioning. And, we kind of, I don't want to say we like parted ways, but, he completely understood. And look, when I opened Team Moljo, guess what's one of the first programs I offered at Team Moljo? Kettlebell Inferno, you know, so it worked out.
That's so wild.
Yeah.
And that's a good point too. Like, he might have been a good mentor and like a good assistant, but you have a true burning desire, or your Inferno, and he's like, you know what, I'm just chilling.
Right.
So you need to find that, because not everyone has that.
Right.
So when you built that first one, how long until you were like, I want this space? Like this space is, this is a stamp on the area.
Yeah. So this space is probably just like a roided out version of what my other space was, honestly. So I had a 3-year lease at our first location, and we had a total of probably about 3,000 square feet. But it was a unique setup because I actually occupied 3 different storefronts in the building in Putnam Valley. So there was like a main entrance to the building. It had 5 retail spaces on the bottom that had exterior egress and exit and entrance, and then you have to go into the main entrance to get to the upstairs unit. So I was lucky is that I got the 2 downstairs storefronts outside of the main entrance or main vestibule of the building. So we just added doors in that vestibule to connect the 2 gyms, and then we had one right upstairs on the top of the staircase. So I had 3 separate training areas. So it was unique, which is why you kind of see like the separate training areas here, because we were like, oh, this kind of worked. So let's kind of like duplicate that. And we were in a non-desirable location. Like, no one really, I don't know if many of your listeners are familiar with where Putnam Valley is, but no one really goes into Putnam Valley unless you live in Putnam Valley. Yeah. And I was fortunate because I was an alumni of the high school. I played sports there and I had a following. So I became more of like a destination for people to come to. But I knew that like there was a cap there. And I had originally started to look at properties for purchasing. So I was looking in other areas, and I happened to stumble across like this space here, which was, it checked so many boxes, because if I relocated to this space, it was still close enough to my previous location that it's not going to be that much of an inconvenience for people to have to travel. But you're now putting me like right off of a main road across from another larger high school. So the location justified having to actually relocate. And I don't want to say we were bursting at the seams at the other place. Like, we could have made it work. But it was more about like, you're doing well and don't miss out on this opportunity. So it's time for your business to kind of take the next step and put you in a better location. And, from our last year in Putnam Valley to our first year in Traboke, like, significant growth.
Yeah. Yeah, so you saw a growth opportunity, you took it.
Yep.
I think we can also, if we dive into that, because that's so important for entrepreneurs, right?
Sure.
Like you have to take a risk.
Right.
And you have to be willing to fail, right?
Right. Yeah.
So for you, in your mind, what was your decision-making tree to say, like, let's go for it?
So it was very similar to my decision-making tree when I first opened my original location, which was, am I making enough money to just cover my expenses, right? And, do I have enough money in the bank to cover a few months in the event things start to go south? And when we took over this space, it was like, all right, well, like our expenses are probably going to go up roughly about this amount. Can we afford that? Yeah. Now this time I'm going into it with a team, right? So as an entrepreneur, it's like your success becomes, at least in my field, dependent on the success of the people who are involved in your business, right? And the more successful they become, right? Like it's only going to help me become a little bit more successful as well, and vice versa, right? It's just like, well, do these people really want to work here for the rest of their life, or like, do I need to take a risk and provide like an opportunity for them to grow as well? So when I knew the business was going to be put in a good area, financially, we were able to afford the new expenses, and we were able to afford a few months of overhead in the event that things didn't go well. And I got the stamp of approval from my entire team. Like they all came here and they all took a tour and they all had to be on board with the decision. And if any one of them didn't want to do it, I would have had to find out why. But like I knew that I was taking a step that was going to be have an impact on everyone involved, and they all needed to approve that transition. So
How many people did you have at that point?
At that point, I had there was like 7 of us.
Wow.
Yeah. And this is maybe 7. It was 7 or 8. Yeah, 7 or 8. Actually, no, 8 of us. It was 8 of us. Yeah.
And you were like, let's go take a tour, and you guys got to be on board.
Yeah. In our facility, it used to be like a nursery school. So it's like a bunch of classrooms, little chairs, and it's just like, guys, this is going to be a sick gym, But like people don't see what the entrepreneur sees. Like you have a responsibility to be a visionary, right? Yeah. And sometimes it's really hard to communicate that vision to anybody. And to be able to communicate that to your staff and say, oh, by the way, like if we're going to do this, we're going to be like running a gym for a couple months, like building a gym for a couple months. And I'm going to need your guys' help doing both. Yeah. So
for you, if, obviously you are the visionary here. And I know we met Nicole. She kind of is the person who executes and gets it done.
For sure. Yeah. Without a doubt. Like, she allows me like the freedom to be a visionary, right? And that's, like visions are visions, right? Like everybody has visions, everyone has ideas, right? But at the end of the day, you have to be able to execute on those things. And she is like the biggest help in terms of allowing me to execute on the vision.
Have you read EOS or Traction, the book Traction?
I actually have it on my desk. That's next in the pipeline.
I'm reading it right now. It's so good.
Yeah.
I'm actually bringing in an implementer to like systemize us. But
cool.
What you guys have is what they call a VI combination, visionary integrator.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I think it's so important for people if they're thinking about businesses or opening a business or whatever, is like to understand that concept of things.
Sure.
And how do you find that person? Like, how did you find her? And how did you know that she was going to be the person to execute on your thoughts and ideas?
So Nicole was actually a client of mine, and when I opened my first location, I knew right out of the gate like what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and I knew that like where I was going to need to be put to serve the business best. But I also was well aware of the other things needed to help the business become successful. And where she was working previously, like she had demonstrated the skills that I knew would be very valuable. So it started as like, hey, can you help me with like some bookkeeping and some just like organizational stuff? And like, I'll hook you up on like your training. And then like the business started to grow where we were able to provide, like
there's a full-time opportunity here for you. And like, as great as she was at the things I needed her to do, she's been like by my side and has learned like with me, right? It's not like I signed my lease and was like, I know how to open a gym. Like, that's not how it went at all. So, you know, she's not a quitter, right? And I'm a big proponent of like surrounding yourself with people who know how to problem solve, right? They're not always going to look for you for the answer, right? And especially early in business, like, you don't have the answer for anything. Even though you might put on this facade like you do have the answer to everything, you don't. So you have to surround yourself with people who understand, hey, there's a problem. Let me figure out how I can solve it. So she has very, very good problem solving skills, and she's very, very good at making sure things will get done. Mm-hmm. And, you know, like, I didn't always know the things she was going to have to do, like the role and responsibility she has right now in year 8. I didn't know these were going to be the things that she was going to be doing, right? As your business grows, so do the responsibilities, so do the problems, so do the obstacles. So she, you know, being the problem solver that she is, understanding that she has to adapt, change, and grow with that. So
yeah, I think that's super valuable.
Yeah,
because and I like what you said there too. As entrepreneurs, like, I don't know. Like, I just making shit up.
Yeah,
and
like,
what
you know,
works.
it's like,
I tell my staff that sometimes. I'm like, hey guys, listen, like, we're just gonna see what works because
Right.
we have to figure it out.
Sure, yeah, like, dude, business is trial and error.
Yeah, unless you're a big corporation, right?
Right.
Like, small business is the best, man. I said, whatever avenue you are, small business the best. There's so much room for growth, so much room to develop as a person.
Right. Yeah.
So much trial and error.
And
like
you could be so impactful, right? Like, that you have purpose. Like, the people that are a part of Team Moljo, they matter, right? Like, you know, when they as a business owner, your goal is to try and protect your business from anything, right? Whether it's like a staff, if someone left, the business should still be able to go on and like be successful. And that's like a big gray area in small business, right? Because you want people to feel like they matter, that they're important, and they're contributing to the success of the business. And right, if that's going to be true, then sometimes the opposite of that is going to be true, right? So if this person wasn't involved, then like it could be potentially be detrimental for the business, which is where like the whole team kind of comes in place. And as a small business, I'm always a big proponent of, like, you know, positional agility, right? Like, we have myself who coaches, but I also do like the visionary stuff, and I help out with like the bookkeeping. And then you have Jess, who also coaches but also understands how to do payroll. If we have to do payroll, understands how to do some of the marketing. So people who are put in their place, and they have their primary responsibility, but they also have secondary responsibilities, because you never know when they're going to have to step up to the plate and handle something for somebody else.
Yeah, very true. And I think a lot of what you're saying there too is comes down to leadership. You know, this has been something that I've been diving into a lot, and really trying to learn how to be a better leader.
Yeah.
Right. So for you, how did you evolve as a leader, and like, what things are you doing actively to do that?
Leadership is one of my like favorite topics to study. I've read a bunch of books on leadership. I have a master's degree in fitness, wellness, and leadership. And it's always changing, right? Like, I think as a leader, one of your most important skill sets is your ability to adapt, right? And you're going to be surrounded by different people, different personalities, different learning styles. And you as a leader have to understand, what role can you play to bring the best out in that person. And that's been like one of the most interesting things as a leader, because I'll be the first to admit, is like, I'm type A, and, you know, I don't like to change too much, right? I have the way I do things, my style, my personality. And, you know, as much as I think it's been great for the business, I've had enough self-awareness to know that sometimes it isn't what the business needs, and you need to be able to step back and allow other people to kind of step in and give the business what it needs at the time. So, and again, like, adaptability, but also as a leader, your job is to create more leaders. And that's what I really try and do here by, you know, giving people meaning, giving people purpose, giving them more responsibility, and giving them the opportunity to provide input, right? What you see here, the facility you walked through and the experience our clients have isn't something that like I wrote down 9 years ago on paper and was like, this is what we're going to execute. Like, this is something that was created by the collective, by the group of people who are here now, who have been here in the past, members who are here now, members who have been here in the past. So yeah, I think allowing other people to step up and give them opportunities to be leaders is probably one of the most important skill sets as a leader.
Yeah, I 100% agree that empowerment aspect of things is crucial. You know, what books would you say are some of the best you've read on it?
I mean, I'm a big lover of like Navy SEAL books. So,
Yeah.
I mean, anything like
Extreme
Extreme Ownership, like
Such a good book. We're doing a book club on it right now. It's,
yeah.
Dude,
I've
that
read
book
it.
is-
I've read it twice.
Yeah, it's so good.
I mean, this isn't like a specific leadership book, but like the E-Myth. I don't know if you read the E-Myth by Michael Gerber. That was probably one of the most impactful books that I read as an entrepreneur. I've read a book just called Leadership. I forgot the author. Leading from the Front. I don't know. I have two bookshelves in here. We have a bookcase shelf up in Nicole's office, and I have a bookshelf in my office, filled with books about leadership, team development, obviously exercise science activities. And I'm a huge fan of Martin Rooney and his work.
Who's that? I don't even know who that is.
So Martin Rooney is the founder of Training for Warriors.
Okay.
He used to be like the director of education for the Parisi Speed School. He went and he started Training for Warriors, but he is someone who he's developed a training model, a license model. He has this model essentially globally. He gives incredible continuing education workshops. He's an excellent presenter. And he's a big proponent of like coaching being the most important role and responsibility in the world. And he essentially travels to make people, understand that, but makes you a better coach. Mm-hmm. And he's always filled with incredible amount of energy. And he's just a great person to be around. So again, Martin Rooney, definitely, I feel like you would love him. I feel like you and I are pretty similar.
Yeah.
But I would definitely get to one of his workshops if you could. If not, read some of his books.
Yeah, I'm going to check him out because I never heard of it, and I love that stuff. The pursuit of learning is everything, right? You gotta be a better person. So for the gym specifically, like, what's your principles here? Like, how do you train people? Who are your clientele? Let's dive down that route.
Yeah, so we serve generally two demographics. We serve student athletes, grades 5 to, college, and the adult demographic age 40 to probably 60. Those are the primary clientele that we work with. I wouldn't say we have this is exactly how we train, because we try to provide what's best for the client. So we're a big proponent of well thought out individualized programs for the people that we work with. And that's we're an appointment-based gym. So people are doing personal training, group training, and everyone has unique individual goals. But more importantly, people have, individual injuries, ailments, health histories. So how do you factor in, all of the variables of the human life and create something that's going to be impactful for them from a physical standpoint, a mental standpoint, but also trying to make things fun as well. So, if I was going to put some specifics behind it, it's all right, well, the programming has to make sense for their level of ability. It has to make sense in terms of you're making progress towards their goals, and there has to be a human relations component to it. And I think that's one of the biggest things that differentiates our gym is, we're very close with all of our clients, and, we kind of have that family oriented feel here. So people, when they come here, they feel welcome. They feel like they're part of a community. They're getting a social benefit from it, but they're, getting good quality training, and, they're, making strides towards the things that they want to achieve.
Is it primary one-on-one, or do you have a small group?
It's probably 50-50. Yeah, it's primary 50. We're 50-50 group training and personal training, and we're probably 60% to 70% adults and like 30 to 40% student athletes. And then in the summertime, we're probably like, 50-50 in terms of adult and student athletes, because a lot of our college athletes are home from school, kids are off of school. We have a large summer camp that we run. So I would say in the summertime, you'll probably see more of like a 50-50 student athlete adult split.
For the student athletes, like how did you create that program, and are they all in here at once? Like, how does that work?
So we have a few different options for student athlete programs. So similar to adults, they'll either do private training or small group training, but we also have team training for athletes as an option. So if we're running like a team training, hypothetically, then you'll see like that entire team can be in here at once. And when it's team training, you'll generally see like one workout for the team. However, like, if we're doing, squats, right? Like we're able to kind of separate the group in terms of level of ability. Like kids who've worked out, maybe they've done barbell back squats before, we can have those kids barbell back squat. If you have younger kids who've never done any strength training stuff, maybe we're teaching them to goblet squat. So picking the appropriate variation of the movement for the team, for the individual athlete in the team, but they all will be doing the same workout per se. Small group training, similar to what we do for our adults. Some of our athletes, they'll have an individualized program. But I train a lot of college lacrosse athletes who they all need to deadlift. They all need to build upper body strength. So some of them might do like the same workout. But at any point in time, if something arises where they needed something that was more individualized, then like we will cater to that as well. And then we've done like student athlete classes where it could be a mixed bag of athletes, non-athletes, kids who are in shape, kids who maybe aren't in shape, but same thing. Like I think it comes down to the coach being able to balance out like catering to the needs of a larger group, like the kids who maybe are in shape and know what they're doing. How do I make sure that you're getting to work, but also like give you an opportunity to be a leader in that environment and help some of the kids who maybe are not familiar, and you can be motivating to those kids. So creating a welcoming environment, because with student athletes it could get tricky. Some kids, like, if they know what they're doing, they might not want to be around other athletes that have never done what they're doing. So setting the expectation to like, I'm going to give you a great workout, but the expectation is you're going to help everyone in this room get better at the same time.
And that's baked into your coaching with them then?
Yep.
And then how many coaches do you have if you have a full team? You got like
so
2 or 3?
Yeah, we'll have at least 2. If we have a team of probably like 10 or more, we'll have at least 2. Generally, when we have like some team training, I'll have 2 coaches assigned to that, and I'll keep myself available in the event that they need to step in. They need more hands on deck. So
Yeah, because it's a lot of kids to manage.
And then we'll run a summer camp, and that's outside. That's at Putt Valley High School field. And we've had anywhere from like 40 to like 75 kids there.
Damn.
So I'll usually have like 4 coaches, sometimes 5 coaches, an intern there. The more eyes, the better when we have that larger of a group.
Do you like to manage that many people at once?
I mean, like you're saying, like in like the camp setting. Honestly, I do, man. Like if I would say in other environments, maybe not, but like in the camp environment, because I've been doing it for so long, like I love it. Like I love being there, and I love having, 50, 60, 70 kids like showing up that want to work out, they want to have fun. You're going to get the kids who are like, I don't want to be here, it's early, but you try to incorporate that and like make light of that in the situation, because like no one wants to be there at 7:15 in the morning. Yeah. I think I'm the only person who wants to be there at 7:50. I'm more excited to be there than some of the kids are. But yeah, I thoroughly enjoy it, so that doesn't bother me. Now I have worked with like younger demographics before, like 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds. Do I want to do 50, 60, 70, 8-year-olds in a camp setting? No, probably not. But the good thing about having like grades 5 and up is having those older kids, forces the younger kids to kind of like, all right, I can't really like. I can't go rogue and like do whatever I want to do because like these older kids are here, and like I'm gonna lead by example. But at the same time, the complete opposite can hold true too. Like the older kids who were supposed to be leaders, if they come in and they just want to like, make a complete joke of the day, you kind of have to like address that immediately so it doesn't trickle down to some of the younger kids.
So it's a lot to manage.
Yeah. But I enjoy it. It's fun. And look, if you get the kids working and you get them out of breath quick, then they don't have much left to give you, So
the parents probably like you too.
Yeah.
So with all this going on, all this processes, let's bounce back to the business side of things. Like, what's the vision? Like, where are you taking this in the next couple of years, or like where are you seeing it?
Yeah. So,
and what's your process for vision planning too, I guess?
Yeah. So honestly, like I don't have like a structured process for vision planning. I used to be that way. And then I realized that like, I don't know, I feel like for true entrepreneurs, like there's a part of your brain that's constantly working on a vision, right? And then, almost like subconsciously when something has like some merit, it gets like pushed to like the front of your brain. You're like, oh, like let me have a conversation about this, or like let me dive into this like a little bit further. So I would say that like being a visionary and like that's always happening. That's like evergreen as an entrepreneur, as like a business owner. And then once something becomes like a little bit more clear or like worthy of pursuing, then like I'll start to have conversations or start to kind of like plan around it.
Yeah, I think it's a good process.
Yeah.
You let it fester.
Yeah.
I've learned over that over the years too. Like, I'm so quick to act.
Yeah.
And I've shot myself in the foot too many times,
And
man.
that's like one of the most valuable lessons I think I've learned is being a business owner. Is like you can't be a prisoner of the moment for the good or the bad, right? Like you could have this like really, really good idea and you're like, oh, I want to do it. And then all of a sudden, like you just like, you start acting on it, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I probably should have thought this through. I didn't really think about all of the other things I was going to have to sacrifice in order to kind of like pursue this. So I definitely think like having like that evergreen visionary part of your brain is awesome, but being able to like, give it like the 24-hour rule, right? All right, so like, do I really want to pursue this, or is that really a bad idea, or should I like actually be trying to kind of like make moves with that? So to answer your question in terms of like the vision for the business, over the past couple of years for obvious reasons, it's like you had to adapt and things have changed, right? Things now aren't the way they were 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And I think what has made things really exciting for me now is like, how do I just do what I'm doing better, right? It's not, for me right now, it used to be about, am I going to open another facility, or, how am I going to do this? Like, how am I going to do that? And I know there's going to come a point in time where like, that's going to happen again, right? But like for the past year, now that we've been able to have like, some normalcy and some sustainability, it's been, how do I do what I'm doing better? And I think as an entrepreneur, sometimes it's important to step back and just do what you're doing better rather than just jumping to the next thing.
For sure. I heard a good quote. It's growth over expansion.
Sure.
So you have so much space to grow into, like grow there and escalate before you expand anywhere else.
Right.
If someone is, well, let's go back to the vision here. Do you have this, like you just want to be better here? Like, is there any metric specific to that, or anything you're shooting for right now?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's definitely like, there's a metric of becoming like a 7-figure business. Like that has been something I've been like trying to pursue for some time. So yeah, if I was going to assign a metric to that, it's like, what do we have to do to become a 7-figure business? And, what's interesting is like, you can get to that by things that you control, but also there's things that you can't control that could potentially be significantly impactful for that. And, one example is like, and I'll use your business as an example, but like as a physical therapist, right? The ability to accept insurance. And, we're a premium gym, and sometimes we're not necessarily in the budget for everyone. However, I know that what we do is arguably, some of, if not one of the most important things we can do for one's health and one's wellness, right? So if we are, for some reason, able to start being able to approved or paid for insurance, which I know a lot of these larger agencies are really working towards, then that can be like an absolute game changer, which I think the industry needs at this point. I think over the last 5-6 years, you have seen an incredible amount of saturation in the industry, which is good, but at the same time, it's bad. And by, distinguishing which coaches or which facilities are, really know what's going on, really know what they're doing, and granting these, facilities the opportunity to now be compensated via insurance, like, that could be a game changer. There's a whole market out there of people that probably want to come in here that want to do stuff. Or B, like it would, some of our members might be like, all right, well, now that like insurance is paying for some of it, maybe I could do more with the business. So it might get some of your existing clients to financially be able to do more with the business, but also like everyone who might not be able to afford personal training in their monthly budget, now they can because their insurance is paying for it. Yeah. So yeah, I feel like that's something that's out of my control that could be impactful, but also I've been in business long enough to know that like there's a fine line, because with personal training and group training, you still have that level of exchanging time and money. And in any business, you constantly hear about like and you probably get this, you have to separate yourself from the business. You have to stop exchanging time for money. And as great as that sounds, I think in our space, it's much easier said than done for a couple reasons. One, I love coaching. I don't want to stop coaching. Yeah. I don't see myself wanting to step away from the business forever and just like, just collecting revenue. That's not a goal of mine. But at the end of the day, like people need to show up and do the work, you're like, it's, like no one can do the work for you. You have to be here. You have to do it. And so I think, that for me to get to that 7-figure business, I always ask like, well, how many more people do I need involved in the business? And if I do bring on these people, am I ready to manage and develop, or can I manage and can I develop those people? So I now have a lot of clarity on what it takes to get to that point and know what I'm willing to do, but more importantly, what I'm unwilling to do to get to that.
Yeah, and I think you hit some awesome points there. Like for me, I'm the same way. Like there's so many business owners out there who are like, I just want to collect and sit back. I'm like, why you want to do that? Like, why don't you, like you're building something. You have to be so passionate about the building and passionate about the process. Like, why are you just trying to fucking collect and leave? Sure.
And yeah, I think, look, collecting, like being able to collect revenue from something is great, right? And, as an entrepreneur, I think any entrepreneur should definitely like look to explore like investment opportunities where you can do that, right? So I do that, right? I try to make investments in other areas that I could be pretty laissez-faire with and collect revenue from that. But like what's going to fuel that? This is going to fuel that. So you have to focus on something, right? Like I don't care who you are. No one's just sitting back collecting money. And if you are, like, are you really enjoying life? And if you are, great, good for you. But like me, like I enjoy what I do. I enjoy the people that I do it with. And I don't think I can just like sit home tomorrow and like not do this and be okay no matter how big of a check came in the mail. Like that's just, for me, like I'm not completely driven by money and revenue as much as I'm driven by purpose and action and, like being social with people. So
yeah, purpose is the key word there, man. And I just love that, because so many people out there, like entrepreneurs, will, like a lot of entrepreneur coaches, I don't know if you've dealt with a lot of them, but some of them are out there like, oh, look at me on my jet, or me doing this when my business is running itself. And I'm like, damn, that's like, why are you trying to do that? Yeah. Like, what's your purpose now? Is trying to get money at someone else.
It's like, I don't know. I just feel like that, like the imagery that like social media has like given success is just garbage. Yeah. Like, it's just like, like I know plenty of coaches who have huge Instagram followings and almost make no money doing it, right? So it's like you have social media that's forcing people to think like, this is what success looks like. This is what I need to do. And, I'll travel on like some of these conferences. Like I went to a conference back in, I think it was like February, and I got roasted for 2 reasons. One, I didn't have a personal Instagram. I don't have time for a personal, like we have a business Instagram, and I don't even, like, I barely have access to that. I don't do anything for our business Instagram. And I was literally like almost forced to create like a personal Instagram, which I did. And like, I don't regret it, but at the same time, it hasn't like injected significant change into my business. And I understand that that takes time and attention to do. But if I'm going to give that time and attention, what about the time and attention that I'm giving to the things that are already providing me a return on investment for my time? Am I willing to make that jump? Not right now. And I got roasted for being the Android guy. Like, who here has an Android? It's like 300 people in this conference. I'm like, yeah. Like,
That's a ridiculous reason to get roasted. What the fuck is what does it matter anyway?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm the Android guy. And they go, you're the annoying guy that's always like the green dot. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know.
I have an Android too.
Yeah, so there you go. Nice, dude. Androids. But I had a conversation with a bunch of people and they're like, oh, like, what do you, like how do you not have it? And I'm like, well, let me see your Instagram. And like, boom, sick Instagram. Pictures look good. This looks good. That looks good. And it's just like, you get to more conversations about like, well, you know, well, what are you doing? Are you changing anyone's, like, is your social media really changing someone's life, right? The answer to that question is probably no. Like, when I'm face to face with someone, I know I'm changing that person's life. At least, like, you know, over time, if I spend enough time with them, I'm going to have an impact. Like, I haven't looked at someone's Instagram and was like, oh, my life has changed because of that. And like, are you making money from your Instagram? Nah, not yet. Cool. I'm making money.
Exactly.
You know, I'm paying my bills.
Yeah.
Right?
It's that purpose. Like, what is the purpose? And is it just to have a facade of success?
Sure.
Actually
And
being
that is
successful?
huge these days, which is why, like, I really hope that, like, the fitness industry becomes a little bit more regulated, because it's like, I know I'm going to be on the top of the line. I put in the work. I put in the hours. I have the certifications. I have the education, and more importantly, I've got the testimonials, right?
Yeah.
Like, so if and when they do start to regulate it, like, you're going to separate, and I know I'm going to be at the top.
For sure. And I hope you disrupt the industry, man. That's dope.
Yeah. Look, if you could disrupt the industry, then I'm really looking to like disrupt that, like the air bike industry. It's like a very quiet space. No one goes into the air bike space, but like I slowly got like a YouTube coming up. I wrote a training manual about the air bike. You know, but that's the other thing too, is like I heard Jonathan Goodman, who's a very, very you know, famous, you know, person in our industry, but one of the biggest takeaways I had from his presentation is like, you have to find like the quiet space. Everyone's doing the same thing. Everyone's telling you to drink water. Everyone's telling you to like eat your protein, take your 10,000 steps. You got to train. Like, everyone's telling you that. Like, every fitness influencer, social media is telling you that. Every coach is telling you that. You know, so you got to find an area that like people aren't in, like that's quiet, not competitive. And for me, it's like the air bike. Like, there might be like 3 other people in the world that like the air bike, but I'll take my chances with those 3 other people than like the 3 million other people that are competing for the same people. So,
yeah. No, that's a valuable lesson, man. Find your niche and niche down.
You know, it's like I don't remember how exactly it was worded, but it's like you can't be everything, or you can't be something to everybody. You can't be everything to everybody, but you can be like something to somebody. So that one person out there who really wants to get better at the air bike, they're going to find me. I'm confident, you know.
Exactly. Awesome, man. Let's wrap this up. If there's anything, where can people find you? Find out about Team Moljo.
So I have a personal Instagram now. There you go. John Moljo. We have a business Instagram at Team Moljo. I could be reached via email, jmoljo@teammoljo.com. If you are local to the Yorktown community, please stop in and visit our facility at 1396 East Main Street. But yeah, I really appreciate you having me on the podcast. And, you know, I want to commend you on all your successes. I watch your guys' social media. I know you're growing the empire, and now you're growing the podcast. So happy for you. And it's great to have like-minded people in the area.
Yeah, for sure, man. Thank you. We'll run this one back too, because we could talk for hours.
Yeah,
man.
for sure.
But guys, share the show. This has a lot of nuggets in it. So if you liked it at all, please comment, like, give John a follow. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, buddy.